Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. This is Tech Tip Tuesday and I am John Fester, your IT manager here at Travel Planners International. Thank you for joining in today. I've got a couple topics we're going to go over today. Today's topics are sharing docs and a couple other types of files and Windows family sharing. So when we're talking about sharing documents, of course, it's not just documents. We also have photos, we have videos, sometimes you have Excel sheets and different things that you need to share. And I always like to mention that in these videos, based around travel, the fact that we are always mobile, we're always on the road, you want to make sure that you can have access to your stuff and also be able to provide access to other individuals that might need that file. You might have a Word document, might be a proposal or a quote, an invoice, or maybe a promotional material that you need to send off to somebody, and how can you give them access to it? Obviously, the first thing we think about is just sending an email with that file attached. Before you know it, you could have several different emails going back and forth with the same file. Now you have different versions, which one's most updated. So that's one of the solutions on sharing files versus just emailing them. So let's talk about that. What are some of the options with sharing documents? One of the most common options if you are a user of Microsoft Office would be to use Microsoft Office. Built into Microsoft Office is going to be Microsoft OneDrive. If you know the old name, it used to be called SkyDrive, but it's known as OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive. There's two different versions of it. There's a business version and a personal version, which is the consumer version. And the icons are pretty much similar, but slightly different. The important thing is, regardless of which version you're on, if somebody's on the opposite version, you can still share files between each other. So that's a good thing. Now, with Microsoft Office, their newest model of Microsoft Office is called Office 365. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's basically a month-by-month subscription that you pay a certain amount of money depending on what level of subscription you have. There's a very basic one, and it not support any email functionality. Excuse me. There's a little bit higher versions that do include emails. There's professional levels that include everything, and then there's even enterprise levels or business level accounts, which, for example, TPI, here at TPI, we use those, and we have all the applications, and it's a good offering. Any one of these packages, just depending on what you need, is really a good value. You get access to the common programs like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or Outlook. And if you do not have an email provider right now, in one of my previous recordings, I believe it was in episode 3 or 4, I mentioned domain names. And please go back and rewatch those videos, and you can pick up those tech tips that I mentioned previously. For example, the domains. If you're using an email address like @gmail.com, that's fine, at least you have an email. But it's not a professional look, and you're using a free email solution that is not using your company name. You're not doing anything to market your business name. And if you buy a domain name, for example, John's Travel, then I can send emails from there. For example, cruises @johnstravel.com, and that's a professional look. So along with having a domain name like that, and again, I mentioned that in a previous video, but I do recommend you go out, you buy a domain name if you don't already have one, and after doing that, your email address can be put into Outlook. So Gmail can also similarly be done where you check your emails in Outlook, but if you have Office 365, you already have Outlook, what better way than to use a professional looking email address in there to send your emails? Excuse me. So OneDrive would be Microsoft's solution. You do not have to have a full subscription to Microsoft to have access to OneDrive. There are limited accounts that you can get for free, very minimal storage, and basically you can use it for sharing simple files. Now, if you're a Google individual, if you like Google applications and their products, which I'm a fan of, I like a lot of different companies that provide good technology, and Google's definitely one of them. Not only on Google's website, but also on Android's website, which if you didn't know, Google owns Android. Excuse me. So when it comes to Google, you have a lot of options there, and you don't have to pay for it. As you know, probably everybody has a Google account. It's free. You can have a Gmail address, you can have access to all of their applications like Google Sheets, which is the equivalent of Excel, Google Docs, which is the equivalent of Microsoft Word, and all these different tools like a PowerPoint version. They have all these great tools that you can use for free. Along with that is Google Drive. Google Drive is the competition or Google's version of what I just mentioned with Microsoft of OneDrive. Google Drive is free. You get 5 gigs of storage for free without having to pay for it. And there's different ways that you can increase that storage for free. A lot of cell phones, when you get a brand new cell phone, if it's Android, it will pop up an advertisement when you first get the phone saying, sign in now and you'll get 100 gig for 1 year for free. And different things like that. There's promotions. But you can use this Google Drive to share documents with friends, family. It could be documents that you just store for yourself that you want to have access to when you're on the road and traveling. Or it could be files and documents that you share with others. It could be a customer, a coworker, a colleague. And you're able to upload files into there. It does not have to be a Google Sheet or Google document that you put there. It could be anything. It could be a picture. As a matter of fact, my Google Drive, I use it primarily for my drone videos. I record drone videos. I fly drones. I'm not the best, mind you, and the amazing professional staff that we have here at TPI, Joshua, Lewis, Sam, Alima, thank you all for helping me with this. They've helped me a lot, so I had to give them a shout out. Go check out my drone videos. Click around here somewhere. You can find one of the links to my different YouTube channels and check out this stuff. But that's what I use my Google Drive for. I store videos of my drones on there. It's not really I'm sharing it with anybody, but it gives me access anywhere I go. I grab this here tablet. I can open my Google Drive anywhere I'm at. I just went out to Vegas for my wife's 30th birthday. First time in Vegas, I came back alive. It was a great place, but you need a lot of energy and a lot of money to be out there. But I was on the plane, and I was working on all my documents, my drone footage on the plane in airplane mode, because if it's on Google Drive and you have it here, then you understand you have an offline version of that file that you can fully utilize. And any changes that you make to it, as soon as you go back online, you have internet again, it updates it right to Google. So it updates the cloud. So these type of synchronization tools are fantastic to use. I mentioned documents, Word files, Excel, and things like that because that is the most common type of thing that we're going to try to share. However, when you think about pictures and different things and videos, well, you can really start getting a larger, broad aspect of what all you can do.
Hey, Fester, you're coming live from your profile, not the group.
No one can see you unless they're your Facebook friend.
Wow. Okay, we'll keep going. We'll share it off to the group. Okay, so moving on. So there's a lot of these different synchronization softwares that you're able to utilize. And a few other alternatives I'm going to mention. Hightail, for example. Now, Hightail is another great software that you can get a free account for with minimum storage. And they're one of the most trusted business solutions for synchronizing files. So Hightail is a great option. To get a lot of storage, you have to pay for it, but it is certainly a great option. Another alternative is Dropbox. If you haven't heard of Dropbox, I really recommend everybody go and get a Dropbox account. It's free. Here's the #1 reason that I say that. You add that account to your cell phone, whether iPhone or Android, and I even think Windows Phone has the app, even though Windows Phone is not really a thing anymore, but I do believe you can get it for Windows Phone. You get this Dropbox app, and what it does is backs up any photos or videos that you take on your phone for free. Now, it's limited storage. It's not just going to back everything up, but imagine this. You go on a trip, like this trip that I just took to Vegas. I took tons of photos. I have my cell phone everywhere I go. Every night when I get back to the hotel, I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. My phone automatically starts sending all of those photos and videos up to Dropbox's cloud. I no longer have to worry if my phone is stolen, if I drop it in the water, the pool, crack it, damage it, if I accidentally delete the file, anything. I no longer have to worry about it because it's already been uploaded to Dropbox. So you can access that Dropbox from anywhere, on your computer, on another browser. Again, having access to your files remotely. So those are some different options. I've mentioned Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, I've mentioned Hightail, I've mentioned Dropbox, and certainly there's other options as well. But these are some of the great options. Now, how do you share and why do you share? Different reasons, or what are the different reasons why you share? One such example I mentioned earlier is it might be a quote or an invoice you're trying to provide to your client. So you do not have to forward that file, but on each individual file, you have the ability to share it. And it's going to be in the top right corner of that file. It will be a big button that says share. And when you click on that button, you get different options. You have the option to share it to the public, meaning anybody that has a link to your Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox would see all of your public files. It could be a repository of just common files that you have there that are publicly accessible, maybe templates, or perhaps they're things that your clients access, maybe a credit card authorization form. So you just tell people, go to this link and you will find a file there. So those are public files, anybody with the link can access them. One other type of way to share it would be a direct link that only people with that URL can see the file. So that link you would not publish anywhere. You would only send it to individuals and tell them, click on this link and you will find the credit card authorization form. Or click on this link and download your proposal, your invoice. Another way that you could share it is directly to an individual. If I have somebody's email address, for example, Joshua's email address, I'm going to say, I need to share a file with him. So what I'll do is I'll put his email address in there, and he is going to get a notification I just shared a file with him. Nobody else can access it, even if they have the link. So now I've controlled it knowing only he can see that proposal that I've created for him, and I don't have to worry about anybody else seeing it. So there's many different options on how you can even share those files and what permission levels you give to the files. You can do this also on an entire folder. Maybe you have a whole folder for a client. Bob just called me, and Bob needed a proposal, so I created a proposal. 2 days later, he called me, he converted to, he made a deposit, created a booking. Now a couple days later, I have an invoice, a second invoice, a final invoice. All these files I can keep in a folder that I shared to Bob. And Bob goes to that folder, to that URL, and he sees all of those files. Wouldn't that be great for your clients? Okay, so that is sharing of documents. Now I want to mention Windows Family Controls. Windows Family Controls, and even Mac has a fantastic, they call them parental controls, and I'm sure everybody has thought at some time along your life about parental controls. If you have young ones in your home, certainly you have thought about parental controls, and how do you manage what they can and cannot see? How do you prevent them from seeing content you don't want them to see? And how do you know what they're actually looking at? Unless you're standing over their shoulder all day long, let me tell you something. As soon as you walk out of that room, something else is going to get looked at. Now, fortunately for myself, my children are amazing, trustworthy, and I don't really have that concern. However, I want to ensure that I never have to have that concern. So even though I don't believe I have the concern, I also have rules and restrictions in place to ensure my rules are always followed. Okay, how do you do this? On a Windows computer, there's a website, and you do require to have Windows 8.1 or newer, Windows 10. Hopefully by now everybody has Windows 10. You can go to a URL, I'll post it in the comments below, but it's basically accounts.microsoft.com. And when you go here, you're going to have an option at the top called Family. Now the first thing you need to do is create a specific account for your children. You create them an account on your computer, perhaps they have their own computer. And when you do it, when you create that account, it asks you for the Microsoft email address. So if your child does not have a Microsoft email address yet, that's okay, just pause and go create one. You have some options. You can go to hotmail.com and create a Hotmail address. You can go to Microsoft.com and create an @Microsoft.com email address. You can go and create a Gmail address. It really doesn't matter what email address you use. If you have an Apple ID, then you have an email address. If you have a domain name, whatever email you have is fine. Get an email address for your child, and they don't have to know it, they don't have to have access to it, it doesn't even matter, but they need a unique email. You go to this URL, account.microsoft.com, and you're going to create an account. You're logging in as your account, you're the parent, so you're kind of like the admin, and you create an account for your child. What you get immediate access to is restrictions and limitations. For example, one of the things that you have access to is called screen time. Inside of screen time, you can control by device how much time your child can utilize it or can be logged into it. Now this also includes Xbox. If your child has an Xbox, then you can set this up and you can determine how many hours a day your child can use that Xbox. You can also control a Microsoft computer. So if your child has an Xbox and a Windows computer, for example, you might know that they have to use their computer for homework. So maybe they get 2 hours a day on the computer, knowing in your mind probably an hour should be for homework, or that's what they need. But really their time is spent a lot on entertainment on the Xbox. So maybe you limit their Xbox use to 1 hour a day. Another way that you can limit it is by the time of day. My daughter wakes up very early, before I ever wake up. And I wanted to make sure that she was not waking up early just to go and play games on the computer. So I restricted the morning. She cannot log into her computer in the morning. Her computer will only allow her to log in the afternoons, after 4 p.m. And it will not let her log in after 8 p.m. because her bedtime's 8:30. So by 8, she needs to get ready for bed. On the weekends, it's a little different. You can control it differently. I'm okay with her logging in the morning. I'm okay with her having more than an hour of computer time on the weekends. I'm okay with her being logged into the computer a little bit later on Friday and Saturday nights. You can control it each individual day. How about the total amount of time allowed? On a weekend, I do not want my daughter using the computer for more than 2 or 3 hours. And it's a Saturday. They could sit on a computer or Xbox 8 hours easily. I don't want that to happen, so I set a maximum allowed time of 2 or 3 hours. And you can make your own determination. Maybe they're doing a project and they need 6 hours on a computer day. So how do I do this? Oh man, now I have to log in and make all these changes as the parent. No. You see, Microsoft thought about all this stuff. And they made a really quick and simple way that the child can request more time. They get a pop-up saying your time is almost expired. Do you like to request more time? Simple question. They click yes or no. It gives them an option of how much time they're requesting. Are they asking for 10 more minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours? What are they asking for? They submit this and they can continue using the computer for a few more minutes while you receive the request. Now you get a notification both in your email and on your Microsoft account. It tells you this child is asking for more screen time and this is the amount of time that they're asking. You have links right there. Maybe you check your emails on your cell phone. That's an awesome thing because I'm on my cell phone in the living room and I get a notification from my daughter in her bedroom. She's on her computer, she needs more time. I click yes, or I select how much time. Maybe I don't want to give her the 2 hours she requested, so I modify it to only 30 more minutes. You see, Microsoft has really created a great way that parents can control what their kids are doing. Or what if she tries, or one of your children tries to go to a website that you don't want them to go to? You can control that as well. They have content restrictions, so you can set the age group. It's kind of like the PG ratings on movies. My daughter, I don't want her to see anything rated above PG. But if it's rated PG or lower, she can see it. What about certain websites? I only permit her to get to 3 websites. Every other website is blocked. If she tries to get to it, it notifies me. If I want her to be allowed there, I add it to the exception. But only those 3 websites are accessible at this time. So nothing else is even viewable. Now, these are great ways to control what your children are doing. You can get activity reports. You can get emails showing you the activity, what websites they browsed, how long they were on a website, what games they used. Maybe there's an app that you don't want your kids playing. There's some games out there that I am not okay the fact that kids have access to them. So I disable them. I block them. And even though they're inside the PG rating, I'm still not okay with them. So I specifically block apps. Or maybe there's only 1 or 2 apps that you want to allow. You know, I'm a fan of Mahjong. That's an old school tabletop game that most people don't even know about tiles anymore. It's a great computer game. I love it. My daughter loves Minecraft. Those are the only 2 apps I allow to run. So if she wants to talk to her grandparents and start up Skype, that's okay. I get a notification for an exception. Do I want her to be able to open Skype? I don't want her to open that without my supervision. So I click yes, and now I know she's opening it. On the Mac, there's all kinds of parental controls as well, and I'm going to post a link to the Mac site, to the Apple website, where you can read about setting up parental controls on a Mac. I do encourage you to check it out. They have just about equal functionality as on the Microsoft side, but Microsoft has really focused in on this. They own the Xbox, and they know there's a lot of kids on it, and there's a lot of kids that play on their computer. So they gave us the ability as parents to control this stuff, and I encourage you to do that. Now there's a couple suggestions I'm going to throw out here because we're talking about websites and creating accounts, and now you're thinking, I have 1 more password that I have to keep track of. I have 1 more login, or 2 more logins because now I have the one for my kid. And I don't want you to have to keep all these passwords in your head. I do not try to do that. There's software out there for password managers, and there's several great options for a password manager, both that you can install on your computer, tablet, cell phone, home desktop. You pay 1 price for the year, and you can install it everywhere. It synchronizes so all of your devices remain up to date with the same information, It's encrypted, so you never have to worry about if your device gets stolen, they still can't get the information out of there, because those software require a password when you open them. Now, a lot of devices now have biometric scanners, fingerprint scanners, where it recognizes your face. This device, this Surface, does the same thing. When I open my password manager, it requires a password. I only have to remember that one password. So I type in that password, and now it gives me access to all of my passwords. And I'm not just glancing, what is the password? Let me look it up and then go and type it in. No, these utilities are great. You click a button, it opens your browser, it logs you in right from that software. So there's a lot of great options. I'm going to mention a few, but ultimately go and you do your research. Check out the prices. The 4 that I'm going to mention are always giving great prices, and one will be on sale, one will not. The one that I prefer is Keeper Security. Keeper Security has never been hacked. They're rated the #1 top security in this industry when storing passwords, and they're very fairly priced. They're about $39 or $34 for the year. You can install it on every device that you own. You can store an infinite number of passwords, and it's the strongest encryption that exists. Dashlane is probably the runner-up. They're probably the best priced one, and they're strong security as well. None of them are as quite strong as security as the first one I mentioned, but all 4 of these that I mentioned are good options. LastPass is another option. Along with that, I throw out a warning. They are the only one that's been hacked, and this was kept under wraps for a very long time. They did not really handle it how they should have, so I would mention a word of caution if you consider using LastPass. They were hacked, they try to hide it from the public, so you use that knowledge to your benefit. And the last one is Kaspersky Password Manager. Despite all the rumors up in the media about Kaspersky and being a Russian-based internet security company, and they've been here in America for over a decade. I've used them personally for over 15 years. I still highly recommend them. They have opened their doors, their code, to any developer to come in and inspect it. They're very open about their policies now. They're not trying to hide anything. So you use your own best judgment. If you're going to trust them, or if you've heard what's in the media, you don't want to trust them, that's your choice. I've given you 4 great options. I personally use Keeper Security because it works. It's the strongest security, and it's unlimited number of logins. So it's a great software. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I ask you to please post your comments below. Any suggestions that you have for future topics, I also encourage you to post those. I'm not getting a lot of feedback on these as far as for future episodes. I get a lot of feedback and comments on these episodes, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to know if you're even enjoying this, if it's a waste of time, or if I'm doing good. So please let me know how we're doing. I will be posting these links to the comments in a few minutes below. But please, your suggestions for future topics that you'd like me to cover is strongly appreciated and would help me a lot. So thank you again for being here. I am John Fester, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.